Okay. Apologies to everyone who was waiting in the waiting room. Sorry we started late. We had a little bit of a glitch. Welcome to our public comment session on our 830J plan, our affordable housing plan for the next 5 years. If you don't see yourself on video on the screen, you're not part of the subcommittee. There's too many of you and it'll kind of get jumbled up. But this is an opportunity for you to offer public comments on the draft of the plan. And when we start taking public comments, if you just raise your iconed yellow hand, we will call on you and we'll put your video on. And so just to be clear, there are 3 affordable things going on in New Canaan right now. This conversation tonight is solely about our draft affordable housing plan for the next 5 years. We're not here to discuss the moratorium application. We're not here to discuss the 751 weed application. Those are both completely not part of tonight's discussion at all. And we would hope that you would respect that and keep your comments to the 830J draft affordable plan. If you have something to say, if you can be as concise as possible and limit your comments to 3 to 5 minutes so that everyone has a fair opportunity to speak that wants to speak, that would be really helpful. And then just wanted to introduce our subcommittee. You may recognize some of them from town. We have John Goodwin from the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Art Caspant, a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Peggy Daneman, a member of the Housing Authority Commission, Scott Hobbs, chair of the Housing Authority, Krista Nielsen, also a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, is also here. And the last member of our committee, Kevin Moynihan, the first selectman, will be joining us late this evening. I think that's all of the initial comments I wanted to state.
Madam Chairwoman, may I say something?
You may. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to emphasize what Ms. Abney said is myself, Mr. Cassavant, and Mrs. Nielsen are all members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And we have received the application for 751 weed, application under 830G. We expect currently to open that on May 24th. But we operate under very strict Freedom of Information Act guidelines, which basically says that we cannot discuss applications that have been filed with a commitment with the commission that are not taking place within a planning and zoning forum. So just a little bit more context there. It's not a decision of ours, it's state law. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay. So to kick off the meeting, since this is a public comment session, do we have any comments from the public? And if you wish to comment, feel free to raise your yellow icon hand.
When I came up.
Giacomo?
Yeah, thanks. Can you hear me or see me?
Yes, we can both see and hear you.
All right, great. Well, sorry you have to see me, but anyway, thank you for having the meeting. I've been asked to speak on behalf of a group of New Canaan residents. So I'll do that on behalf of a group, and permit me a little liberty on the time. I'll try to be as concise as I can. But in general, of course, we'd like to thank the group that's put this document together. In reviewing the documents, become clear to me and others that much work and further discussion needs to be done on this. And I and others are happy to assist to further improve the document prior to final submission and approval. This is a public comment period, so we're focused on this document. I'm happy to go to a page turn or give you highlights to where the comments are, because maybe that's helpful for you. So people are aware of the nature of the comments and will be as specific as possible, because hopefully that's helpful for you. So page 2, the first strategy for the town is to maintain a rolling 830G moratorium for New Canaan. When the last moratorium expired, the town received sufficient COAs for submission for the new rolling moratorium. This was not done. So the town should explain in this document the background to the decision-making on the process for not maintaining a rolling 830G moratorium. Page 2, strategy point number 2, the town's focus on private developers using the 830G process to develop affordable properties on their own land outside of town strategies. And our question is, how does this strategy facilitate the generation of public support for public housing? Also a stated goal. General comment in that area is that the analysis lacks forward-looking demographic data. When we look at the state of Connecticut data from 2016 to 2021, the state gained approximately 12,000 people more, so that's more births than deaths. In the last 3 years, the population actually reduced by 179 people per year on average. This is all public information. We have one of the highest average ages in the United States and also a low fertility rate. So the question is, where are we really on demographics going forward, or are we just historically looking? Page 3, planning history references 67 affordable housing units added in the 90s and early 2000s. But if you take a 10% number on that, the town should have had 714 affordable housing units, if I got my math right. So we should reference that in terms of what our status was in early 2000. Page 5 references the Merit Apartments and highlights that as an opportunity in 2011. Yet when that facility was redeveloped, there was no affordable housing included. And that appears to be a large lost opportunity for the town, and we should understand why that took place. Page 5, why is there no follow-up on the other suggestions from 2011? Again, page 5, Housing Authority of New Canaan is introduced as an exclusive vehicle for public sector affordable housing. Why is New Canaan Neighbors introduced on page 29? Page 6, private sector projects. Why did none of these projects include affordable housing? Page 9, appears the town has sufficient HUE points to apply for the second moratorium, but did not immediately. Town should address why. Page 11, if New Canaan never met the state's goal of 10% affordable housing, if the town does not ensure rolling coverage of 830G, we should expect developers to plan for a significant number of large projects at developers' discretion every 4 years. So that's a reality the town may be living with. Page 13, the chart's unclear. What are we trying to show? Page 15, what specific equity issue is being cited? Many people don't live in towns that they work. I believe many New Canaan residents also work in other towns. Regarding the environmental issues, I presume this is related to CO2 emissions from cars. Is this required to be addressed as part of an affordable housing plan? How does this work with regards to New Canaan residents who work in other towns? Is that an issue as well? Page 16, you talk about average prices. This should incorporate the average cost per square foot, construction, property inflation, just so we understand the dynamics and some of the drivers. Just throwing up sort of average numbers doesn't really tell anything. Page 18, the need for smaller homes. We make an assertion here that recent college graduates want to return to New Canaan after they graduate. Do we have any data that supports this? My impression often is that new graduates follow jobs and go to large cities where there's a significant and vibrant age-appropriate cultural scene. As the document says, much of New Canaan presently is focused on families and also retirees. Are we expecting the town to also adjust its cultural scene to cater to more early career residents? If so, do we have a plan with regards to zoning that would make that work? Page 18, are we sure that each household only wants one home with one bedroom? 1-to-1 ratio. What do they do about guests? What do they do about office homes and the like? Is it more reasonable to assume that each person may want more than one bedroom? And then that may actually make that pie chart make more sense. Also, what about roommates? We talk about the people after college. Very often people have roommates. How do you deal with roommates on larger homes? Page 18, again, the pie chart should be cleaned up to reflect the same data on each side. I think you have a different type of data set on each side, so it's easier to compare and understand the objective of the presentation. And as such, the town, with regards to the bedroom issue, page 19, the number one priority of the town is being prepared for a rolling moratorium, yet we were not prepared in the last expiration. What's the plan that would indicate the town would be better prepared next time? Even the recommendation is to plan for the next moratorium when that is done now. So what's changed or what will change? Page 22, potential sites after Canaan Parish. There are no details on timelines or mechanisms to do this. The history indicates that affordable housing is not naturally included in multifamily housing in New Canaan. So inclusion of affordable housing in any multifamily housing project going forward would appear to be a logical policy to be implemented soonest. Page 25, the pie chart should have numbers. It's basically just giving us pieces of pie. It doesn't tell us percentage or unit numbers related to the chart, and we should have source data so it's cited. We understand what the chart's trying to show. Page 25, large lot sizes. What's the definition of a large lot size? How do we determine that we have too many large lots? Page 26, cost burden calculations should be more transparent. I believe the math indicates that 35.9% of the homes spend in excess of 30% of their income on housing. Of those, 18.6% were lower than 80% of the regional SMI. This would result in 490 homes, or 6.5% of the homes in town. Where's the number reflecting the need for 533 to 1,097 incremental homes compared with today, coming from the need to cover for existing residents? So we need to clean up the math on how we get to that. Page 28, why is New Canaan Neighbors Inc. suddenly introduced as a partner rather than the Housing Authority of New Canaan, which has been the exclusive vehicle for public housing? New Canaan Neighbors Inc. appears to lease property from the town in one specific area of town, which appears to be where Canaan Parish is developed. Page 29, we assert that the town is in fear of an exodus of seniors. However, according to the census, New Canaan appears to have seen an increase in the number of seniors in town. I'm just doing over the last 10 years. And it's unclear where the proportionate share of 65 plus is going down in New Canaan comes from. And if you look over the last sort of 30 years, the average age in New Canaan has actually increased. Page 30, considering part of the goals are to increase public support of affordable housing, it's unclear why a new committee being formed of regular public representatives, we appear to have essentially the same individuals or same groups, and not actually what I would call generalist residents of town. It is time to try something new. I'm happy to submit those comments in writing too.
Would
Thank
you
you.
please, Giacomo, submit them
Yeah.
in writing?
Yep,
Thank you. Is that, that's everything?
that is.
Okay, thank you. There was another hand up before. Was there someone I missed that wanted to speak? Does anyone else want to speak?
Yeah, I'm trying. I don't know how to get on here.
Who is that?
Michael Field.
Hold on one second.
Yeah, my observation from what was written so far is what we're writing lacks any bold new idea. It seems like we're rehashing a lot of things over and hoping that works. I don't know why we can't have another New Canaan Parish kind of project. Take our destiny into our own hands. Stop abdicating to builders in our proclaimed program for moratorium. I think we need to grab this situation, find out if the town residents are willing to step up and support some means of financing that. Some of the financing, if we did it ourselves, could be from the rent. Other might be from some incremental special taxation for affordable housing. But I think we can't sit around and complain that builders are taking over without placing and putting in play some more bolder plan to do some development ourselves. So I can see there are people online who've been involved in this, like Scott and so on, but I don't know enough to know whether that would be receptive or not, but I think it would be certainly make the proposal look a lot more credible. We came up with something new and bold instead of same old, same old. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Field. Is there anyone else that wants to speak?
Just a question, has anyone identified any properties in town that would be appropriate for development?
That's your comment?
That's a question. Has anyone identified properties in our town that would be appropriate for development that we would all think is the right place to do it?
Okay, well, we're just taking comments, so we're not going to answer questions, but we will take that comment to and note it. Did you have any other thoughts?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
And
Gray.
Lynn, Kathleen Corbett has her hand up.
Ah, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Ms. Corbett?
Oh, hi, everybody. Thank you for all the work that's being done on this. I just really mostly had a question. I didn't realize this was just for public comment. I was hoping that we can get some answers too. One, I can submit those comments directly to you, Lynn, as well, but just on page 13 and rolling over into page 14, I too was confused about what this chart on monthly housing costs as a percentage of household income in the past 12 months. I don't know if anybody on the group here can maybe just walk us through, just sort of understand what some of those data points mean.
So we weren't intending to answer any questions per se. So
Well, if there's time, that'd be great. If there was time and not a lot of other questions, if you had some time for answers, that would be great.
okay, is that the only comment you had?
Others are small things, but just one would be, I don't have any comments. They're mostly questions. So decide how you want to use your time.
Well, please share all the rest of your comments if you want to share them.
They're mostly nits as I kind of go through the document, but starting with that particular table, just trying to understand that a bit better. And many of the comments that there's just, small corrections that need to be made. I'm a proofreader at heart, so I've identified a few of those. So rather than taking anybody else's time, I'll just submit them directly to you. But the main question that I had was the referencing that table on page 13. And if you can if you had a moment, you can take us through it, that'd be great.
Okay, let's see what we have for comments, and then we'll.
Sure.
Thank you. Christina Fagerstall?
Yes, hi, everybody. I'm sorry, I haven't read the document, but I did want to make a general comment about affordable housing and development in our town. Developers would not propose a development just in a vacuum. They've clearly done market research. They clearly see a need for such housing. They would not propose a housing development, whether it be on Weed Street or at another location, unless they felt that they could successfully build the project and make money off that project. They're not in it for purely altruistic reasons. I think those who've had experience with real estate on this call are fully aware of that. And so clearly there is a need for this kind of housing in our town. Otherwise, developers would not try to be developing it. And what I would like to see going forward is whatever relevant boards and commissions and whatever leaders we have, if volunteers want to, form committees to discuss this. My questions are, what is the vision for the future of our town? What are our needs in terms of not only housing, but it has been identified recently that we need more daycare. We are a very senior-friendly town, which is wonderful, but we should also be welcoming to young families. We have a fantastic school system, and we would like to get, people in that. So I will close with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Junija? You're on mute.
Sorry, 10 Zooms a day and I can never remember to unmute. A comment about the affordable housing plan as it relates to, I can never get the name of the state law right, 30-whatever G that we've been talking about. It seemed, and I think Giacomo alluded to this earlier, it seems as though the prior moratorium was let go for reasons that have never been adequately explained and that defy the what's written in the statutes. And, in the best case scenario can be explained by incompetence, and in the worst case scenario, something much more nefarious. And I think the folks putting this plan together have an obligation to explain to the citizenry why such a failure will not happen again and how that will be incorporated into the plan.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything any comments? Liz Moore?
Hi. I would say that my comment would just be, I think that there's a demand from the public to have more conversation and for us to be able to provide more input. So while an informational Zoom like this is somewhat helpful, obviously this is just a comment, we're not able to get answers. But I would highly encourage this committee to try and create more opportunities for discussion and more opportunities where we can have more of a real viable discussion versus just, a comment period.
So just to follow up on that, is there a plan in place whereby this particular document and anything else that might be shared with our community, is that planned to do a page turn, if you will, or a presentation that'll take us through this before it's actually submitted?
Like another public comment session, is that what you're asking?
Not necessarily public comment session, but really a presentation from this committee regarding all of the points in this document.
If this is gonna come before the Board of Selectmen, we can, there can be a presentation there, sort of like there was, I guess, for the hazard mitigation plan.
Okay, so is that the plan? It will be coming before the Board of Selectmen?
Yes,
Okay, great. And that will be before the submission in June?
yes,
Okay. Thank you.
no problem. Rachel DeCenzo?
Hi, yes. One of the comments, kind of the general comment that I felt kind of as I was reading it is similar to Giacomo, is it's a lot of the same that has been posed in the previous plan. And so, what's different? What will be different? Getting another, setting up another committee similar to our housing committee really, isn't going to get us there. So as I was thinking about, what can we do? Where can we get funding for additional housing? And, what are some of our larger needs? One being, providing workforce housing. Have we thought about things like having workforce housing be part of a benefit package, whether it be for employees of town, trade-off of other benefits to provide housing. It will lower operating costs and be able to move those costs into building more affordable housing in town. Things like that. Let's get creative. How do we shift funds in the town budget to be able to build more affordable housing by offsetting it? Also, if we put it towards the school budget, we can then start to possibly bring in more diversity in our school teachers, because now we can bring in teachers from, other towns, and their children can be in the same schools as they are. So we could probably solve a lot of different things by looking a little bit more creatively on how we deal with it, both from a funding and on, how we want to do it versus always running to the big builders. So let's think creatively about this one, and let's put that in plan. Happy to work on this with anyone. Thanks.
Thank you. Greg.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Lynn, this is, I guess it's a procedural question. When can we get answers to these questions? Everything that gets done in this town is a committee that accomplishes very little. What can we expect to get answers to these questions that we've, through Giacomo, have proposed? What's the process to get these answers?
Right, I mean, right now we're having just a public comment session.
No,
so
I
guess-
want answers. When can we get answers to the questions that you say you and other people on these town committees never want to answer? How do we get our answers? Because listen, if you don't want to answer them, that's fine. You know the route this is going. And we find you culpable and many other people in these towns, on these boards, culpable. And if we have to go the route we're going to go, that's fine. But we'd like to just get some answers to questions. Citizens, taxpayers, you don't answer questions, nobody else answers questions. Okay? Why can't we get answers? And how do we get answers? What is the process in this town to sit down and get our answers? Explain.
Okay, so
Still waiting.
we're gonna make a note that you would like answers.
Okay, Lynn,
Yeah.
you're culpable here. So just be ready. Okay?
Sir, first of all,
Yeah.
what's your last name for the record, please?
Moore, Moore.
Thank you.
315 Elm. You can come talk to me anytime you want.
Be happy to. Second of all,
Okay.
the next steps I would imagine is this is, as the chairwoman said, this is a public information gathering session. We will then have follow-up meetings. And my experience with the commissions, with other people serving on other commissions, is we do provide answers, and we spend a
Okay.
heck of a lot.
No,
we
yeah,
sir-
no, nobody's
sir-
provided any answers on any
we
of this.
spend a heck of a lot of time.
Yeah, you're
trying to
wrong.
do the-
We haven't gotten any answers. Zero. We haven't. So why don't you just answer the questions that Giacomo proposed tonight? Why don't you chime in and give some of the answers to those?
Because we're having a public gathering information session.
Oh, and also we're having a public gathering and information, and it was nothing about 751 weed, but it was your first thing you brought up. Correct?
Because, sir, if you were listening to me, it was important to point out we cannot take input on 751 weed. That is not our choice.
Okay. So again, nobody answers questions. Thanks very much. Speaking, another guy won't answer questions.
Do you have any more
No,
comments?
but just note that Kevin won't answer questions either. You put that down.
Hey, Greg, I offered to have a public information session to answer questions about 751. I haven't been taken up on that
No,
offer yet.
no, we wanted to have one in the whole town. I'll let Giacomo chime in on that. No, you did not.
Yeah, we're not going to have a public session with thousands of people in a public park. So but I offered the town
Why
hall
not?
meeting. So I'll be happy to answer questions about 751 weed myself. Most of the members of the Planning and Zoning Committee, as John said, can't talk about 751. This is a public information meeting about our plan.
Right, and we have questions. I just want to know, how do we go about getting these answers? Like, it's like we can't get any answers. I just asked a simple procedural question. How do we go get these answers that they're about 100 people are on board with what Giacomo asked? That's all. It's a simple question. And everything we get is, it's a public comment period. We'll put you down.
This is something different than 751. And
I understand that. So why can't we get answers to Giacomo's about the town plan and 830J? What is the procedure to sit down and get these answers? Now they're saying it'll go before the councilman, but will we get answers to these questions?
So I might frame it slightly different. It's Rachel. I might frame it that the plan should include a more robust depiction of how someone would go about the process of getting answers on housing and affordable housing and the process then. I mean, that's maybe it should be laid out in the plan then. If we're reading the plan and we're going over it, maybe our public comment is there isn't enough information in our town plan on how we get information and give information on public housing. Maybe we can leave it at that. Maybe that should be.
I would
added.
echo.
We can add it to
those
there.
sentiments, Rachel.
Wait,
So
I'm sorry,
let's-
wait, there have too many people talking.
So let's add it to the plan. So we're gonna ask that, so a public comment on our plan, which is what we're here today to talk about, right? To take our public comments on the plan.
Yep.
We're asking to add more information on more detailed information on how the citizens of New Canaan both get information and provide information on the process and on, the various committees for public housing and the projects and everything else. We feel that it's sorely lacking. So we want to know more about it and how we can facilitate information. We want that to be in the plan. That's our comments. I will say though, that I am a little surprised. I forget who it was. Someone did ask a question specifically about the plan. They were trying to understand one of the, tables or something. I was surprised that I understand it's a public comment meeting, but they're trying to comment on a document and they were just asking a question about a table in the document so they could properly comment. I'm surprised that the committee couldn't answer that. That's all. I think that should have been able to be answered so that we could provide proper comments. Hopefully you can get to answer that question because that is applicable, I think, to this meeting. Again, so we can really provide our appropriate comments to the plan. Thanks.
That's all your comments?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Giacomo, did you want to say something else? You're on mute, so we can't hear you.
Sorry, I just need to be clear. When it was brought up about the meeting with the first selectman, we are following the recusal issue. And I've been public about recusal versus abstention, so I don't want people to have the impression that we are somehow unwilling to discuss things, but we are respecting what it means to be recused from a process. So I don't like, I think we need to be very clear on that, just so there's not sort of some impression being generated in town. So I think I've been clear on this publicly at Board of Selectmen meetings also, as well as comments. So if people are interested in chasing that down, they can see that there. That's it.
Document, I don't know what you just said, so.
Kevin, you are recused from that particular issue. That's the point. I'm not going to go back and forth on it, but that's the reading of what recusal means.
No, you still don't understand, Giacomo, right? I recuse myself from voting. That makes me freer to talk. Everyone who's going to vote cannot talk
And
about
my point is, we are talking also about a clean process with regards to the strategy of affordable housing. And it was also laid out by the head of P&Z at the start of this meeting about the subject matter that we should cover. And that's my point, is we are trying to be clean on how we discuss this stuff. And that's why I have the issue with either on that other matter, either we're recused or not recused, but it can't be abstention, but calling it recusal. I don't want to go into it, but I think I've been very clear with a lot of people, but it keeps being brought up.
Well,
And again, this is not a meeting about that property. This is a meeting about this strategy document.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any comments? Elizabeth Foley?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I would just like to echo what Elizabeth and Rachel and Giacomo and Greg have said earlier. I mean, this is a town comprised of constituents, and I don't hear the constituents' voices being considered in this plan and how we proceed forward. And I would like to understand what the plan is, as Rachel laid out. It should be part of the plan. What the process is for engaging in two-way conversations, how constituents can have a much more active role in what the future of development looks like in New Canaan. I think that we're also calling for more transparency, and I think you accomplish that with two-way conversations and communications, rather than us being able to make a statement or a comment or ask a question and not having the opportunity to know when to expect answers to that. I think we need to have a process by which where the town offers comment and feedback in these sessions, in these statement sessions, and there is a period of time with which we hear response back to these comments or this feedback in the sessions, you know, be it 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever is appropriate. But I think we also need to put a time limit on when we need to hear back by, so that we're not missing deadlines or we're not contributing to the problem either, but we're working forward together.
Thank you. Does anyone else have some comments?
Yes, I do. Joby Gray.
Ah, okay.
Thank you. I think this is a great idea. However, I think that perhaps it wasn't publicized correctly. I, for one, really thought that there'd be more of a back and forth. And one of the difficulties that we've had in the town certainly over the Weed Street project and the one that's looking to be developed across 123, is that all, we all thought that we had a moratorium in place. And then I know with COVID that there were problems. But I don't think that any of us, we all felt blindsided because we thought that in fact, the moratorium was still active. And so when all of a sudden we realized what's happening and we're all still getting over the view, which continues to annoy certainly me, you feel blindsided. And then this wonderful opportunity comes up and it's one-sided as well. So I think that if you're going to have a lovely forum like this, we need to be able to ask questions and get some sort of a response rather than just being told, well, lovely, but this is a question time. We all have exactly the same questions. I doubt that anyone in this panel doesn't have exactly the same questions and probably the same reaction to the forum that you set up, because it isn't really a forum. But thank you. I cannot tell you how proud I am to live in this town. And I think that the people who make our decisions work tirelessly, and they really do, for the most part, an excellent job. The difficulty is with all the attention for COVID, we have not been given information that we need to, so that all of us feel like we're being included. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Janija, I see that you have another comment.
Sorry, I started the video. Just following up on something Elizabeth said, I don't understand what the purpose of comment period in the comment session is. When the federal government, the FCC is an example, when they pass a new rule, there's a comment period where they take the public's comments and they take them into consideration and they may adjust what they're doing. And so I guess I can't, since we're not allowed to ask questions, I can't get an answer to this, but it would seem like you ought to be telling us what you're going to do with the comments that Giacomo and others have provided. And will those be taken into consideration? Or is this just all a kabuki theater that, we're all wasting our time going through because procedurally you have to do it and we're just, we're a nuisance for you to get behind? Or is there actually some level of input from the citizenry that you will take into account and then modify the plan based on the comments that you receive?
So just to answer your question simply, we are going to take all the comments. We are going to convene the committee and analyze the comments, and then whatever comments are appropriate and need to be adopted into the plan will be adopted into the plan.
Let me further elaborate on that, because when Joby said this was a forum, Joby and Robert, this is not a forum. This was designed to take public comment to hopefully improve a plan that's been in the works for several weeks and months, right? John Goodwin and Scott Hobbs and others on this committee have been working for over 10 years toward the affordable housing compliance goal, and we have limited tools. We have limited tools to address what the state is expecting us to do. But we think we're coming up to a plan wrapped around the WestCOG plan. You got to read our addendum in context of WestCOG's overall plan for the area. We have limited tools to accomplish what the state expects us to do. One tool would be to go out and buy land. We previously suggested the taxpayers pay to buy land to build affordable housing. And by the way, so I'd be happy to have another session that really is a forum, but this body has an obligation by statute to have a public information opportunity so you can give us your suggestions for an improved plan. We welcome your ideas. And when people talk about being creative, believe me, this is a pretty high power committee that has been working on behalf of the Canaan for many, many years. And if we had more tools to deal with, more creative ideas, they'd be putting forth.
Hard to have a lot of faith when we saw what happened with the last moratorium.
Eileen Thomas, I see that you're Eileen Thomas?
I don't know that you can hear me and I apologize, but I guess I would like to understand what the limitations are and how they compare outside of, let's say, public funding to other towns in our situation.
Towns around us are in the same boat.
Elizabeth Foley, did you want to make another comment?
I did, thank you. Kevin, I appreciate that this committee has an obligation to present, you know, an open forum where you can receive feedback, but I think multiple people have articulated that the second piece to that equation is what's missing, and that's of that feedback, what will be assimilated into the plan, and can we review that plan and have, you know, a two-way conversation after that feedback's been given, so we know what it looks like before it's formally submitted. So I just wanted to touch base on that because we're missing the second half of that equation. With regards to creativity, I think Giacomo and a number of individuals on this call have eloquently laid out a lack thereof over the course of the last 10 years. So I appreciate that certain individuals have invested a lot of time and energy over the course of the last 10 years, but there is a lack of creativity, and you have a town full of constituents who is sitting here saying, we are ready to sit down and roll up our sleeves with you and get creative. And I certainly hope that you and the rest of the committee members take us up on that. I know certain developers have suggested the same, that we work with them as opposed to against them. And so I would really hope that out of this conversation, what you really hear is us saying, we're here, we're sitting at the table. We're not pleased as constituents with regards to what we've seen over the last 10 years, certainly not what we've seen over the last 6 months. Let us take an active role in giving feedback, in participating, in coming up with those creative ideas that we so clearly see are lacking.
Christina Fagerstall, did you have an additional comment you wanted to make?
Yes, I did, just because I feel this is the opportunity. Okay, I feel this is the opportunity to make a comment. And sorry, having problems with the video. So this is out of the box thinking. You guys can take it forever what you want, but quick backstory. My sister works in commercial real estate development. She now works for one of North America's largest developers, which is Brookfield. And they are doing projects in Atlanta, north of Atlanta. And they take shopping malls. And the bottom line is millennials do not want to be driving in their cars. They want to walk to everything. So they take shopping malls, they take out half the parking, they put in senior housing, affordable housing, you know, housing for young professionals. And then they redo the mall. They put in a CVS, they put in a grocery store, and the rest of it is parking. And it's revitalizing these huge empty spaces, malls in suburbia north of Atlanta, and they're selling like there's no tomorrow. And just completely out of the box, I'm sure it would never happen, but have we considered rezoning some of the downtown buildings? You have these really low-rise buildings, and our downtown is so charming, but maybe there are some more downtown buildings where we could actually, because a lot of that space is empty and vacant, maybe we could turn it into housing. I don't know. I mean, it's just one thing. And I don't know if it would be affordable right there. It probably would be anything but affordable, but I do really think that there are a lot of creative ideas out there, and strongly support more community, you know, forum to do some brainstorming and get some constructive suggestions and work together with the town and the developers. And if, you know, maybe Kevin's right, maybe we do need to buy land, but our land in our town is always going to be a gold mine. So I don't think you can lose on that investment. And I do want to thank everybody for their efforts, including the people who are a little feisty, because that's what you need to have change happen. And just thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Greg, I see your hand is raised again. Did you want to say another comment?
I did. I want you to put this in the comment, please. The last WestCOG meeting, the last WestCOG meeting, Mr. Cassavan stated the biggest mistake this town has made with regard to affordable housing is not forcing the View to have any affordable units, period. The biggest mistake. So I'd like to put that in the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Does anyone else on this, Mr. Durkin?
Yes. My question is, do we have any provision in our regulations that would require a developer like Mr. Carp on the View to include the required percentage of affordable housing when he comes to you for approval for 50 or 60 or 70 units? To me, that's, if we do not have a provision such as that, that's where we're losing our ability to reduce the affordable housing problems we have in New Canaan.
Just a quick answer to your question. We do. The Planning and Zoning Commission adopted a revision to section 7.6 of the zoning regulations in September of last year that requires a set aside.
After the View was built then?
Yes, that would be after the View is built.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Moore, you still have your hand raised. Is there another comment you had, or is that just because you didn't lower your hand? Does anyone else on this call have any further comments, thoughts, ideas that they want to relay? I see someone's hand just went up. Betty Lovestick.
Hello? Hello?
Bostic. What I wanted to say is, what is the timeline for comments that we shared tonight to be incorporated into a draft? And when can the public see that draft with the revisions? When will we, in other words, meet again to follow up on this meeting or this public comment?
So I believe I answered this for someone earlier. We're going to go back and the committee will reconvene to discuss all the comments that were received. And should the committee decide that they need to be incorporated or fleshed out, they'll be added to the plan. And the draft plan will be posted again.
What is the time frame for that, though?
Yeah, the time frame.
It'll happen in the next month. The final plan needs to be to the state in June.
I'm trying to get in.
So can you please post actual definitive timelines when it's due to the state in June, and specifically when you anticipate on making this visible again for public comment?
Sure, we can post it up. I'll post a timeline with the draft.
Hello?
Giacomo, did you have another comment?
I did. It was more of a request, actually. The WestCOG document that I think has been referred to here is actually really quite extensive, and it's good. My impression was it was taken down after their comment period, so I wasn't able to access it. If you have an old draft, and it might be good to put that up there, just because it's got a lot of pretty good, interesting data that we can compare towns in our region, which is very relevant. And it gives people a good sort of baseline. So if you're able to post that somehow on your site, just so people can see it, I think that would be super helpful. And I know the WestCOG's coming back with their sort of final version, I think in June. So we'll get that then. But between now and then, if people have questions about that, it could be a good source.
Giacomo, yes, thank you for bringing that up. I did reach out to them today based on your earlier comments to me about that exact issue, and I am waiting to get a PDF from them that we can post. So thank you for bringing that out.
I have a question or statement. Can you hear me?
Who is that?
Michael Field.
Okay.
I don't understand the yellow hand thing, so I can never find it on my screen. But I was just wondering if this consideration has been given to using town-owned land for the potential building of another all-affordable housing unit. Parking lots come to mind. Does the town actually own those lots? And if so, has consideration been given to building above them as a means of accelerating our affordable housing units?
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else?
I have my hand up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you pop up. Sorry, Sandy.
That's
Moore.
okay. Just very quickly, I just want to go on record to say that the fact that there are only 66 people on this call doesn't mean that only 66 people care about this in this town. From my estimation, there are probably hundreds, if not thousands, and we should just note that, please.
Sure. There were actually more people earlier tonight. There are 2 additional meetings happening at town hall at this time. So I suspect people left for that. Does anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, I just want to make one last comment. I think, I'm not sure if that was Rachel who mentioned that. I couldn't see who was speaking. But with regards to the timing of meetings, we're talking about inviting younger families here and attracting younger families and supporting, youth and younger families. I am a working mother with 4 young children. So frequently the timing of these meetings at 6 p.m., at 10 a.m. during the week, they don't exactly lend themselves to friendly times of those of us with families for us to actively participate. And so, apart from accommodating more family-friendly times, I think where a lot of us are coming from too is if these town meetings don't work, right? If people cannot show up to these town meetings because they're at 6 p.m. or at their 10 a.m. in the middle of a workday, we're also asking for these other informal sessions not to be hell raisers, Kevin, but because we want to be able to have a friendly conversation, right? And like Rachel said, there's a lot of us that are invested in this, and I hope that you guys will pick us up on that. Either make the exchange more mutual, but also in timeframes where people can actively participate and attend, and with information shared readily in advance so that people can weigh in as well from an informed perspective. Thank you.
Ms. Foley, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When would be better times? Perhaps we will have another follow-up session. We will discuss it as a committee. We are listening to everybody and we take into account everybody's input. So when would be a better time?
Yeah, I think formal town meetings are always scheduled during working hours, right? So either later in the evenings, but I think that's why from an informal perspective, weekends work too. That's why Giacomo and the likes of the residents of the area have suggested things on a Sunday afternoon when it's nice and sunny out and people can have a congenial conversation outside, your formal timelines of when the committees meet.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else on the call want to say anything? Any thoughts? Comments?
Yeah, Madam Chairwoman, can I say one or two things?
Sure.
One is I sit on a committee of planning and zoning chair people in Fairfield County. And one of the things that they have paid a compliment to New Canaan about is the number of moratoriums we have been able to achieve. There's people like Mr. Cassavant and Mr. Hobbs who understand the numbers way better than I do. But what I can tell you is most of the towns in Fairfield County, more often than not, are not achieving moratoriums. They're very difficult to do. The numbers are very difficult to achieve. And when you're a mid-sized town like New Canaan, it becomes even more difficult to do. So I would urge everyone, and I know many of you have done a lot of research and a lot of work on this, but I would urge you to do additional work because it is very difficult to achieve moratoriums when you're a town of 20,000 people. That's just the facts. The other thing that I'll say is when we have our next committee meeting, yeah, sure, I would love to have more people roll up their sleeves and participate in this process. And I do agree that too often it's the same people. And frankly, I've got lots to do trying to chair planning and zoning. If there were people willing to roll up their sleeves and be on this committee, I'd be more than happy to step down. So to the extent that people want to do the work, personally, I would welcome it. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. Did I? Oh. Does anyone else have any comments, thoughts? Do any committee members want to say anything? Oh, wait, we got one. Mr. Moore, you have another comment? Did you want to say something else, Mr. Moore, or did you just? Do any of the committee members want to say anything or? No? So, being no other comments, oh, I'm sorry. Rachel, did you want to add one last thought?
Yeah, I was just going to respond to John. John, to what you just said. I'm working on one of the subgroups in Hartford, actually on the was it POCD? So on the state level plan of conservation and development, and they set up those work groups to help the committees and provide input, really to support the committees, and that's really what my thought was. And saying, to provide creative ideas, to provide input, because folks like yourself are really busy. And yes, you have lots to do, and it's just to get the think tanks going, to then provide, additional input from lay people like myself, right? I mean, I don't do P&Z, I don't do planted conservation at a state level, but I'm providing my business input in Hartford. And so that was really my thought there. And so how can we bring that to New Canaan on a much smaller scale, but to provide community input from people in New Canaan, constituents, to then provide to the committee to help you all. That's really what my thought was. So happy to talk to you more about, what Hartford's doing and what I'm doing in the subcommittees. Anyway, always around. Thanks.
Am I unmuted?
You are.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's very good input. I appreciate it. It's good food for thought.
Mr. Moore, did you want to say something?
My last statement is Mr. Goodman commenting about the moratoriums, and that very may be your thought process, but there's a different thought process, that there was something completely wrong with letting this moratorium lapse. And there was ways it could have been handled better. And we still do never get any answers. All we get is it's a complicated process, or Hobbs has said, there's only one person in the whole state who can fill out the application process. Like, but nobody, we have specific questions and we can't get the answers. So it might be complicated. New Canaan might be getting patted on the back, but we have specific questions as to what happened with the moratorium that we would like answered, and we don't get them. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to speak again? Oh, okay.
No, sorry.
You're done? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay. Just wanted to make sure. And is there anyone else on this call that wants to say anything? I see that there are about 60 of you. Does anyone want to say anything? So if no one else wants to say anything, our next steps are, we're gonna look at all the comments that came in tonight. The committee will meet again to discuss what will get added or not added, what's relevant. The comments were appreciated and very thoughtful. And then we will post the revised draft. And it'll eventually go to, it's going to go very soon. It's due up at the state. And it's going to end up before the Board of Selectmen. And that'll be the Board of Selectmen that will accept or not accept the plan.
Rachel, just really quickly, is there going to be one more opportunity for us to like weigh in on it? I understand you committed to posting it prior to submitting it to the state, but will we have an opportunity to weigh in or for you guys to explain why you may not have included some of the changes?
We will look at potentially what the options are time-wise for everyone's time, respecting everyone's time, what the options are for another session.
Yeah. But regardless of another session, I guess I'm just asking, is there going to be some mechanism for us to review it and provide additional commentary or ask additional questions?
Yes, until it's accepted by the Board of Selectmen. Once we revise it, we will post a draft.
Okay, thank you.
All right, okay. Does anyone have last thoughts?
Thank you.
Then looks like we're all done.
Yeah, that's what I think. So I was going to sign off, but I just want to make sure I didn't cut anyone off. Okay. So that is the end of our meeting. Have a good night.